formal today, but because probably we have questions about Pesach. But when we talk about the minhagim in general, right? I'm of the opinion that at least as much as it has to do with the private arena at home, or among friends, in a way that it does not annoy the community or the policy, you could choose any minhag you want. And a lot was written about that. People forget that most of what was written about minhagim was written from the perspective of the community and not the individual. And it was written, the literature started at the time where there was a divide between the northern community, the north of Israel, which were more pious and zealous, and the people of Yehuda, which were more lenient and Hellenized. So they wanted to make sure that people maintain their minhagim and they don't get assimilated, sort of. And then people carried it away to every country they went, more as a sign of distinction between different communities. But every minhag that we can think of, and if we travel with it far enough back in time, we will find that person who deviated from the minhag of his or her parents.
Right.
So it was done before. What are we like? We go gang ho about the minhag. That's the minhag. That's the minhag. Like, wait a second, 700 years ago or 300 years ago, or it wasn't the minhag. So who started that? That person went against the minhag of their parents. So that's fine.
And that's a good segue into Pesach, if you wanted to segue, because the other issue he has, of course, is with kitniyot.
Yeah.
Right. Which I have no problem with, but just because of the way I grew up, I don't need it.
Right.
But I don't have a problem with it.
So kitniyot is a big issue to some people. We have an acquaintance, a woman who married a Sephardic man, and she says that the first year that she had to eat kitniyot on Pesach, it was on the table. She was choking. That's a taboo. That you feel this is like something that goes against the grain, no pun intended, of how you were brought up. So here with kitniyot, if we start with kitniyot, I would speak about the full spectrum of, on one hand, it's a minhag. So you're, as I believe, you're eligible. You could decide whether you want to follow this minhag or the other minhag, as long as it does not interfere with the community. And of course, with family and friends, you have to make sure that hospitality, that everything works fine. You're not going to feed people things, even if they're 100% kosher, that they don't know about, that they will get upset about. However, I think that a lot was written over the years about the problems that are generated by the minhag of not eating kitniyot. In modern day America and in Israel, it caused a lot of problems where you can't find certain products that are free of kitniyot. Some of them, especially people are vegan or vegetarian, or people who eat soy substitute, even though soy is not so healthy. But there are many other things that people do need to eat kitniyot. We don't care about the Coca-Cola because anyway it's high fructose corn syrup, and you'd rather not have it. But there are a lot of things that contain one or other elements of kitniyot derivatives, and that it could cause problems to people. In Europe, from maybe the 1500s up until the 1900s, or maybe a little before and after 1600 to 1750, there was a huge problem because people did not eat kitniyot, so they could only eat matzah. So what they used to do, it's documented, they would just bake thick batches of matzah. But the matzah of today, I think if our ancestors from Eastern Europe would come to life today and would go to a matzah factory and would see what we have, the poor Manischewitz or Streitz matzah that nobody wants to look at today because they're not kosher enough, they would treasure it. They would say, this is unbelievable that you have such kosher matzah, because they had to bake very thick dough, and that is the reason, just to make greater quantities. They couldn't afford to bake thin, flat matzah. Because of that, a new prohibition was born, that of the gebracht. The whole idea if you look into the arguments for Gebracht, what is it? We are concerned that there was a patch, there was a little spot that was not baked in the matzah, and therefore, it's going, when it gets in contact with water, it's going to become hametz. I challenge any rabbi, any chef, anyone who knows anything about food, to show me that matzah, whether it comes from Yehuda or Manischewitz or Streitz or anyone that has this. I don't know. I think it could be like the $1 million prize. If you find it, show me that matzah. You can never, you won't find it. But that it was born because of that necessity. Meaning they baked thick matzah because they would not eat kitniot, and then the Hatam, who was it? The Hatam Sofer, or the Abetz. I think the Abetz was Rabbi Yaakov of Emedin, who said that if he had the halachic power, meaning if he would have a unity, and other rabbis would not be fighting, it would override this minhag. So I wrote a piece on that. I probably saw it, but I'll just highlight the main arguments that why and how an Ashkenazi person today who wants to eat kitniot but does not want to abandon his minhag at all, meaning it's like the one thing that you could do is say, okay, I'm choosing a different minhag. I think it's legitimate, but some people think that not. So what do you do with that? So first, there's an argument that was brought by Rabbi David Pardo, and that was specifically about kitniot, of a man who was traveling, an Ashkenazi man traveling in Sephardic lands, okay? It's late 1700s, early 1800s. And the rabbi said, listen, you're among people who have this minhag, that's what you have to eat, you can eat it. But also, I found the tshuva of Yitzhak Yaakov Weiss, who was the head of the Edah Harelit in Yerushalayim, who said that basically when you move into a new community where everybody has a different minhag, you could join their minhag. You sort of like you're being absorbed by the majority. And today, as we live in a global village, and I think the coronavirus shows it to, demonstrates in the worst way possible. We are all part of one big community. Everybody knows what happens all over the world. If I posted my Shabbat umbrella on Facebook, and everybody was against it or for it, already commented. It was it's nice, to see how people reacted. So that's the other argument. You are now, whether you want it or not, each and every one of us, we are part of a community where there are Sfaradim, Ashkenazim, Temanim, Parsim, converts. We have everything. So you could choose which. That's one argument. Okay. Then next, we could argue, and I think that is a good argument. It's a very reasonable argument, that we want to adhere to the minhag, but only in its original form. Meaning, there was a grain kernel. I'm trying to, there was the core minhag, that started in maybe the 1300s. The Tur mentions it and it says it's a minhag shtut, and then it kept evolving, right? So let's adhere to this minhag as it was. What was it? The minhag was, don't cook grains that look like hametz, that when you cook them look like hametz. So people used to eat porridge. They used to cook wheat and barley the way we cook oatmeal today, and make them into kind of porridge. So if you have other kitniot that you cook in the same manner, don't do it. You know that doesn't happen. Might happen with cornmeal, but we'll get to corn later. But other kitniot other than corn, only if you could cook it in a way that it would resemble wheat or barley, they should be forbidden. Or the second reason or concern with that minhag is if you could grind them. If people usually grind them into flour and they bake this flour in the way they bake wheat and barley, then you shouldn't use them. So with those two arguments, you should go to grains that are used on a regular basis by the majority of the people, not by the health freaks like me at one point in my life, who buy them from Bob's Mill, at Whole Foods or Trader Joe's, right? Because if you go to that section of flours, it seems like anything that could be ground was ground into flour. You have almonds, you have walnuts, you have millet, you have I forget some Ethiopian wheat, they're crazy stuff. Everything is ground. But the majority of people don't use them. So the problem of confusion is much lesser. Then, so if you limit the Isur of Kidneyot just to these, it's fine. So if we go with that, fresh Kidneyot, green peas, beans, fresh corn, all these things should not be forbidden because there's no way you're going to confuse green peas with wheat and barley, right? Also, liquids were not part of the original minhag. So oils or juices, anything that contains ketoniot in the liquid form should not be forbidden. Also, we should argue that ketoniot that were not known at the time or that are not really fall under the definition of ketoniot. Because today, I think for most people, ketoniot is anything that's small and round. Or if it's small, even if it's not round, or round, even if it's not small. So watermelon, according to some, maybe, I don't know. So the two glaring examples of late ketoniot, right, who came into the game are peanuts and corn. So, even though peanuts are sort of legumes, right, they were never part of the original decree, and you cannot use them in the way you use wheat, barley, and the other grains. Corn has nothing to do with ketoniot. It's a completely different type of plant. And I also mentioned that, and I think part of the reason that it became forbidden, I mean, there are two, always the element of surprise, right? The element of novelty is always a factor in halakha. Like the Hatam Sofer famously said, Hadash asur min Torah. But that was, anything new is forbidden. But that was in reaction to the Enlightenment and the Reform movement. But in general, things that were just like the umbrella. The umbrella was a novelty. We never saw it before. It's a contraption. Probably it's forbidden. Electricity and other things like that. So the corn appears in Europe in the 1600s all of a sudden. So what is this thing? We don't know what it is. And it looks, there are little grains, so probably it's forbidden. I always thought this was the main reason that they made corn forbidden. Then I found out that the corn was imported to Europe through Germany. Germany was the main channel through which corn came to Europe, but Germany imported it from Turkey. So the name in German that was given to the corn was Turkish Witz, or in other words, Turkish wheat. So what other, better way to make corn into ketoniot if it's Turkish wheat? So there you go. So I think that that if you want to adhere to the minhag of ketoniot, but limited to groundable, flourable legumes that existed at the time of the prohibition in Europe, then you could use rice, you could use peanuts, you could use corn, and you could use fresh beans and peas, and you could use definitely soybeans, and not, if you can find anything that's not genetically modified, and what else? And liquids made of ketoniot.
That is why Maxwell House was so smart in their marketing that they gave out over billions of Haggadahs to so many years, is because they were afraid of the Ashkenazim thinking that coffee beans would actually be beans and not be used on Pesach. So they made the Haggadah to always let you know that Maxwell House coffee is kosher Pesach.
Wow, I didn't know that. But it would be nice to see, like, French baguette with Haggadah shel Pesach, like we make it kosher with the Haggadah.
Okay. If I can chime in, I come from Breslover Yichus, and Rabbi Nachman of Breslov ruled that coffee was forbidden on Pesach because of ketoniot.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
And so Maxwell House, the very first edition, had a tshuva in it saying that coffee isn't ketoniot. And so to promote that tshuva, they came out with the Haggadah, and the rest is history.
Do you know of anyone knows of people who don't drink coffee on Pesach?
you would have to ask the folks who stayed in Breslov.
Actually, I recall they don't do it anymore. I mean, it's not very common, but when I was a kid in Israel, you could get before Pesach coffee substitute made of a plant called olesh in Hebrew and chicoria.
Chicory coffee here.
Chicory coffee, right? Do they still sell it?
Yep.
Yeah, I never saw it. I mean, it was side by side with the powder tea from Tetley. You know, like the two strange things that always appeared before Pesach. Okay. What? Like tea powder or soluble tea. Okay, so I thought we'll start with Rambam today. Review a little bit of the Rambam on the Haggadah on Pesach. But I warn you, the moment I start with Rambam, I will jump for a second to the tool to see something interesting, because Rambam, when this is Rambam, the Haggadah. So the Rambam starts with Nosach HaHaggadah, and he says, Nosach HaHaggadah shenahagu ba'Yisrael bizman hagalut kachu. This is the Haggadah that we say during exile. Matchil al kol sheni. You start the Haggadah on the second cup. V'omer bivhilu yatzanu miMitzrayim. We left Mitzrayim in a rush. And halach ma'anya dachlu avatana. There are slightly different versions for each one. But interesting, you see, Rambam says Matchil al kos sheni. What about the kos rishon? Obviously, kos rishon is the kiddush. So there's an interesting halacha that I want to show that has to do with the kiddush that sometimes people sort of miss, and it looks preposterous actually in today's culture. This is the tool. The tool says this: "V'yeh shulchano aruch mi'be'od yom." כדי לאכול מיד כשתחשך. ואף אם הוא בבית המדרש, יקום, משום שמצווה למהר ולאכול בשביל התינוקות שלא ישנו. אבל לא יאכל קודם שתחשך. בזמן אכילת מצה אינו אלא בלילה, דומיה דפסח. So, the Shulchan Aruch says this: you have to have your table set מבעוד יום. You have to make all the preparations beforehand. Don't do it during the holiday. So you could eat immediately when it darkens, when night falls. And even if you're in Bet HaMidrash, meaning you're learning, you have time to learn on Erev Pesach, beautiful. It's probably because your husband prepared everything and you went to the Daf Yomi for women and you could do that. משום שמצווה למהר ולאכול בשביל התינוקות שלא ישנו, you want to eat on time, so the kids will not fall asleep. But don't eat before it is dark, right? So what is interesting about this halacha is the Tur says, have the table set so you could eat with nightfall. When is nightfall? When is it misheteh shach? Shki'ah, sunset is we light candles 18 minutes before sunset, right? And nightfall is about 35 minutes or 45 or 72 minutes after sunset, right? Very according to Rabbi Nutam, Hashechai is 72 minutes later. Show me the family that eats the matzah 72 minutes after sunset, right? It became a tradition amongst families, especially among frum Jews, to compete for who got to the matzah later in the night. Now, thank God that there is a deadline that people believe that you have to eat afikoman before Hatzot. So therefore, they try to wrap it up after the Haggadah before Hatzot and leave enough time to eat the matzah. So I know families who really drag the Haggadah all the way to almost midnight, and then they eat matzah quickly, as they say, freezing the matzah and the kazait and everything. They barely have time to eat something, and then they have to eat the fikoman, and it's gone, right? And then, so now this is, maybe people enjoy doing that. I don't know. I grew up differently. We didn't do 72 minutes after sunset, but I do remember we prayed on time, and my grandfather would go through the Haggadah. We would chant the whole Haggadah. We would read it, with tune, not rushing. We never rushed through the Haggadah. but the Haggadah from the beginning to end would take about an hour. And then during the meal, you could tell stories, you could expand, you could do whatever you want, Devar Torah. And after the meal, we would say the Hallel, and with that, we could drag forever with singing. And then we had the Afikoman, and after the Afikoman, we had coffee and dessert and all that. So a little common sense was used at least around this table. So I want to go back to this tour 1 second and see what happens. So the tour says, so you have to eat at nightfall. So it's about 72 minutes after, the latest after sunset. So sunset here, this week in Maryland is 7:10. So at about 8:20 you could eat. Sometimes we don't even eat Shabbat meal, at that time. And it says mitzvah lemeher veleechol bishvil hatinokot shelo yishnu. You want the children to be alert and not be cranky. It's not just not falling asleep. Young families sometimes say, we're not going to go do the Seder with our parents just because there are too many kids there. Everybody's cranky. They're running around. We can't concentrate. But you have to eat, wait for darkness. Even though on Shabbat you could expand the Shabbat by starting it early, Pesah Shani, on Pesah it's different. Dizman achilat matzah eno ela balayla, dumya de Pesah. So you could eating matzah must be at night because the matzah goes with Korban Pesach. So now look at what the Drisha says in this commentary. Dumya de Pesach, dichtiv al matzot umeorim yechlu. Regarding Korban Pesach, the Torah says you have to eat it with matzah and maror. And that is interesting because there was an argument that maybe you shouldn't eat matzah today because we don't have Korban Pesach. So the Drisha quotes, Katav v'trumat hadeshen. Trumat hadeshen is Mari Iserlin from the 13th century. Af al gav, דקודם שסיים ההגדה ויגיע לאכול מצה ומרור יהיה לילה ממש. It says, obviously, even before you finish the Haggadah, before you get to the matzah, it will be night. מכל מקום, כוס של קידוש, שהוא אחד מארבע כוסות, the first cup, the cup of the קידוש, וגם אכילת שאר ירקות, and the rest of the vegetables that we eat, the karpas, the maror, ויתר שינויי דעבדינן, and all the other differences that we make, כדי שישאלו התינוקות, that are made in order for the children to ask questions, וכל שכן ההגדה עצמה, and definitely the Haggadah itself, בעינמי דלווה בשעה שמצה ומרור רואים לאכול, should be at the time where you can eat מצה ומרור. So look what happened here. We have a clear psak from the tool that you could eat matzah. The earliest time that you could eat matzah is 72 minutes after sunset. Even by the strictest opinions of definition of what is darkness. But the Trumat Hadeshen says the Haggadah should also be during the time that you could eat matzah, because the matzah accompanies the story of the Seder. And eating the vegetables is also part of eating, and drinking the cup of wine is also part of drinking. But this is, I don't know where the argument is. The tool is so clear, le'echol miyad kishetechshach, right? And he says again, you have to eat. It says achilat matzah. It's all about the matzah. So we have a problem here, and the problem is just that I don't think that that when this was written, the author really thought it through in terms of how it's going to affect the families in the future in the Leila Seder. If everybody's ready and everybody could wait, why not? But I know from experience, when this was not dragged, the atmosphere of the Seder was much more relaxed, and that I think something that is better to do. I don't know. I'd love to hear your opinion. Anyone thinks that that it's better to drag the Seder and start eating much later at night, or sees the logic of this argument? It's hard for me to see the logic there. So let's go back to the Haggadah with the Rambam. Let's do the Haggadah over my money. This.
Chaim, before you go on, can you state that difference again between what the Drisha?
Okay, so the two says.
I missed the issue here.
Okay, the issue is what is considered eating. So the two says le'echol matzah. The Drisha says Kiddush is also part of eating. So you know how long it takes between you say the first Kiddush and the time you get to Achilat Matzah, right? So that's even if you go in a very moderate, even a very normal pace, I mean not too slow, then you're still not going to make it with less than an hour and a half. Yes, Yosef, you had a question? Comment?
Yeah. I noticed that in Maran's restatement of the Torah in the Shulchan Aruch, instead of saying lo echol, he says lo ikdush ad tesha shech.
Yeah.
So like he's extending it even further, saying that you can't even make kiddush until.
No, he's like the Drisha.
He's like the Drisha. Okay.
Yeah, that's what the Drisha says.
That's not nightfall. That's sunset.
Yeah, let's go to the Shulchan Aruch and 1 second.
Okay.
And we'll look it up. That's a huge issue. By the way, when I was a rabbi in my community in Brooklyn, I made the 2 minyanim. I made an early minyan. Let's say if now it's 7:10 shkia, we made a minyan of Erev Pesah at 6 o'clock. People went home by 7. And I said, we're not telling you what time to start the Seder, but if you want to have an option, why not? Right? Meanwhile, what happened in many synagogues, and this is something that happened in my lifetime. I remember as a child growing up in Yerushalayim in a very, diverse environment, but you have the Hasidim and you have the Frum Sephardim and the more moderate Israelis. Nobody prayed late on Erev Pesach. Now it became Laila Vadai. They want you to even, the Kiddush to say, they pushed that agenda of the Shulchan Aruch that people sort of like were flexible with, but they insisted on it. So because the rabbis were so afraid that someone might go home and say Kiddush early, they made sure that the Tefillah on Erev Pesach starts so late that you only finish in the synagogue Belayla Vadai, after nightfall. So it borders on coercion, if not mamash coercion. You just force the people, in that manner. So let's look at the Shulchan Aruch, what he says. So look at the interesting, the way he phrases. יהיה שולחנו ערוך מבעוד יום, כדי לאכול מיד כשתחשך. So the shulchan should be set beforehand, so you could eat immediately with nightfall. ואף אם הוא בבית המדרש, יקום מפני שמצווה למהר ולאכול בשביל התינוקות שלו ישנו, even if you're בבית המדרש, you should get up because you want to make sure that the children don't fall asleep. אבל לא יאמר קידוש עד שתחשך, but he should not say קידוש until it is, so it contradicts himself. I mean, the tool, when you look at the tool, יהיה שולחנו ערוך מבעוד יום כדי לאכול, אבל לא יאכל קודם שתחשך. Eating, don't eat, even though you're ready. And why is that? Because אכילת מצה אינו אלא בלילה. You must eat at night. Meanwhile, the Shulchan Aruch starts with, eat when it's שתחשך, אבל לא יאמר קידוש עד שתחשך. So, what's the commentary? מקודם אסור לאכול, משום דמצה ומרור של פסח.
One of the ways that
You're breaking it. Say it again. I can hear you.
Ways that it could happen. One of the ways that could, they would say the Haggadah.
Yossi, you're breaking it. I don't know if it's my problem.
No, I can't hear him either.
Okay, but I think I know what you want to say. Yeah. To say the Haggadah.
No, say say the Haggadah beforehand, and then make Kiddush when it gets nightfall. Then eat matzah right after that.
Right, right. So the problem is that we delay the Haggadah until the Kiddush, and that's one of the real problematic things that. Wow. Okay. So from all the, I mentioned a lot this issue of OCD. When it comes to religion, it's a phenomenon that's known officially as scrupulosity, being with OCD orientation only when it comes to religion. So the Seder, its name, Seder, order, right, sort of imposes on people, you must do it Keseder Anachon. So we have this anxiety, you follow the Haggadah, and I have to get up here, and I have to sit down here. And we don't realize that what we did, we actually destroyed the Seder because, and I mentioned, I wrote about it once, that the teachers and the schools are also to blame, because the Seder is such a great thing to teach. So they teach the kids everything beforehand. There are no surprises at the Seder table. If you try to do something that's not in the Haggadah, your kids are going to call you up, on it. They say, hey, Dad, you have to put the thing right. This is how we do it. So if you work with this kind of environment, what you should do is do the exact opposite. You should start the Seder night by saying, Kol mi shelo amar shlosha dvarim elu lo yatsa, Pesah matzah u'maror. We're done. Let's eat now. Hey, you have to read the Haggadah. No, why? We know it from last year. Start a little conversation. Another argument that I had always, that's how I felt about the Seder, is that the rabbis wanted us to ask questions. That's a great thing. And we ask questions when things are out of the ordinary, where we change our ways. And the Seder was a great way to get us to do things differently, until we started doing it exactly the same every year, and we never deviate. I know that doctors, psychologists, I forgot who is exactly but people recommend doing things differently. Use the left hand for the mouse, drive a different way to work, walk in a different path to shul. It's good to have new feedback, to have changes, and we don't have it. Now, but the real main thing that we have to remember is this: the Seder only came as a substitution for the Korban Pesach. What happened after the destruction is that ritual, that amazing ritual of everybody coming to Yerushalayim for the pilgrimage, sitting on hilltops, having their kumzits, singing together, eating, that was Pesach. That was the experience. Like the Gemara says, I love this phrase, Kezait pischa umarora ufaka higra mehalela. You ate a little kazait of matzah and maror and Pesach, and the rooftops explode with singing. That was really like Yom Ha'atzmaut in Yerushalayim, but without the plastic hammers. Everybody is like singing and at the same time. It's beautiful. So then the temple was destroyed. The rabbis wanted to fill in for that, to fill in the gap, which they did with the many other holidays, and for shul life as well. So what did they do? They said, okay, let's create this festive meal. The festive meal, we want you to feel good. So they really wanted to answer two needs. One is, there's a huge gap now in people's lives with the temple gone. So we wanted to give you something that would feel like that. And because they were afraid that it would feel too much like that, they said, don't eat a whole roast lamb on Erev Pesach. You could eat parts. You could eat, of course, we took it to an extreme. It says no roast meat or no anything roast on Pesach. Not even the what do you call it, the White House conference when they roast the president. Not even that on Pesach. So we took it to an extreme, but that was one thing that they want to fill the gap. But the other thing was, just like the Midrashic literature, was to uplift people's spirit. You have and that's amazing. That's an amazing achievement. There's no question. You have a nation that was broken, trodden on, destroyed, persecuted, executed. All the crazy things that you could think of happened at the time of the Romans. The Romans poured all their armies into Eretz Israel during the Great Revolt, and then again in Mered Bar Kokhba. The rabbis commented about the Midrash. They say people don't want to hear Divrei Torah. היום שיוקר מאמיר ואין הפרוטה מצויה, people, who can you get to listen to anything, right? So they worked out some rituals like that. And what they told people, the Messer of Bnei Melachim, they said, on Pesach, you feel like royalty. It doesn't matter if you're poor, if you're a schlepper, if you don't know your family, everything is in disarray. But on Pesach, you pull yourself together and you're going to be a king and your family is going to be royalty. It's an amazing message. So what do? They said, let's look at royalty. Let's see how royalty eats, And we are going to do the same. So how did royalty eat at the time? People first would come, when you have a Seudah, they would come to the anteroom, they would mill around, and the Tosefta mentions that. When we share, I thought I'm going to go with Rambam, but I should share this also 1 second. The Tosefta Brachot, okay. 1 second. Or maybe I missed it. Maybe it's not in Brachot. I thought it's here. Anyway, the Tosefta. Wait, maybe. Oh, here. Here. One back. Here. Oh, here. It is in the Tosefta. So, Perek Dalet of Tosefta Brachot, Halacha Het. They said this. כיצד סדר סעודה? אורחים נכנסים ויושבים על ספסלים ועל גבי קתדראות עד שיתכנסו. What is the order of the סעודה? First people come in and they sit on benches and on chairs until everybody comes in. Once everybody's there, you counted all your guests, you bring water to wash your hands, and each one washes one hand. מזגו להם את הכוס. When you serve wine, each one says his own bracha. Why? Because you're not in a meal together yet. You're like hors d'oeuvre or appetizers. If they bring dips, each one says by himself. Alu ve'esebu. See this? This is an important word. Alu ve'esebu. They went to the upper level and they reclined. V'natnu la'hem yadayim, and then let them wash hands. Even though they washed one hand, now they washed two hands. Mazgu la'hem et hakos. If they serve wine. Again, because it's a new setting. They bring new dips. Now you have to say bracha again. It's like a new meal. If you came after they served 3 rounds of dips, you can't come in. In other words, if you live in LA and you know what it is, it's called a Persian wedding. And my daughter is married to a Persian man, so no bias here. Or if you lived in Brooklyn, that's called a Syrian wedding. People invite to 4 o'clock, so you'll come at 6, and the chuppah will be at 8, and the food will be at 10. That's okay. That's how people. But not in Yerushalayim. In Yerushalayim, you have 3 dips to come in. Why? Because they, with the lack of refrigerators and prepared food, what they can give you until the chef starts preparing the meal is dips. Once everybody's counted, you start making food, and that's it. If you come now, you're going to shame the host because he wouldn't have food to serve you. But what we see there is this is the table manners for a meal, for a festive meal at the time of the Mishnah was very much like the Seder. So what the rabbis wanted us to do is to have the Seder night be conducted like a meal from the time of that nobility does. So first you come in, you do kiddush because you're going to drink a cup of wine. That's the real, even though we say kiddush on it, because we have to say kiddush, but that's really the appetizer wine. The second cup is the you could say the first one is the additional cup. Then the 1 cup is the appetizer. Then one during the Haggadah is supposed to correspond to the wine that comes during the meal with the main course, and then the aperitif. So there are usually 3 cups: appetizer, main course, and aperitif, and then you add a 4th cup. People would wash hands anyway. That's our first netilah or hats. Everybody goes crazy. Don't say the bracha, don't say the bracha. And there's always someone who forgets and does say the bracha, God forbid, right? And why did they tell you don't say the bracha? Because it's just about cleanliness. Because everybody would take and dip in the and that dip happened year round. Why did they dip? We tell nice stories, the tears of the Jews, etc., etc. Salt water, vinegar. Iraqi Jews use a mixture of lemon and orange juice. But the real reason is to kill parasites. They speak about the worms that would grow in vegetables, and they knew that if you don't, even if you wash it, it's not enough. You have to dip it in very strong vinegar that kills those worms, and then they don't grow in the digestive system. Which means, by the way, surprise, surprise to anyone who's in the kashrut, system or business.
So they eat worms.
They eat worms, yeah, but pickled in vinegar. Yeah, that was never the concern of eating bugs that are hidden between the leaves of vegetables. It was about eating bugs that are seen by the naked eye and are external, or when you eat it deliberately. So of course they would wash it, they remove whatever you see in, but they knew that in the veins, in the leaves, you have probably by experience they learned that it's really bad. So they would kill it with the vinegar, and we know that because the Gemara speaks about.
Are you saying that they didn't use those ultra light UV lights in those days?
Yeah, no, they of course they use them. They would channel them through the Urim V'Tumim, the Hoshan of the Kohen Gadol. The Gemara speaks in Masechet Pesachim about beta haroset. How do you make kosher the receptacle of the haroset? So the haroset was something that was on the table every day, and you have to make it kosher for Pesach. It wasn't a special Pesach treat. Celery, haroset, hazeret, everything was an addition, part of that festive meal, and some of it is preserved in the evolution of the questions. Look, let's see what Rambam brings as a question. Okay, this is the corrected version. Why is that night different of all nights? And how is it different that every other night we don't dip even once, and tonight we dip twice? But in the original statement in the Talmud, the Gemara, let me see if I bring it up here. Sahim. One second, I'll take the whole chapter. So when the original question is mentioned in the Mishnah, they say, why is that night different? Every other night we dip only once, and today we dip twice. The Gemara says, what, you have to dip? You don't have to dip. So every other night we don't dip at all, and tonight we dip twice, right? So I don't know if I cite it here, it doesn't matter. But the original nusach was all other nights we dip once. The rabbis in Bavel were asking, what do you mean you dip once? You never dip. And the reason they asked is because table manners have changed from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, and they didn't know about that. Now, we ask a question, and the question is weird because we say every other night we don't dip even once. Really? Did anyone ever ask you around the table, hey, we do dip, right? People start with dips. It used to be guacamole and other crazy stuff, and now it's hummus all over America. Hummus is the official dip of the National Hockey League. It's unbelievable. We're taking over the world. It's the protocols of the elders of the Mediterranean. Anyway, we do dip on Pesach. So the question had transformed over the ages. What is interesting, another thing that has changed, like Yossi said about the Haggadah, this is the reversal of that. It seems that in the time of the Mishnah, if you carefully read the Mishnah, you actually started with the Seudah. you ate the whole meal, and then you put the table away, and then the kids started asking questions instead of going Seder and stopping you at every point. So nobody does. I mean, maybe people do it today. I don't know everyone. I know I'll just, I want also to have, I'm sure people have questions and comments, and I want to open it up. Just to say one more thing. The way we used to do Seder by my grandfather was very, very enjoyable, was the moment you did Kiddush and you dipped the karpas, that was the opening shot for munching, especially for the kids. So today there's such a debate on how much celery you are allowed to eat, and you should eat less than kazait. And I think there are devices that cut exactly the pieces of celery. We never heard of that. We had on the table, when you do the kiddush, there are heaps of celery, cucumbers, and carrots. When you could put vegetables, we would also eat the egg at that point. Right after karpas, that's when you eat the egg. The egg would also be dipped in the lemon juice. Everybody loved that. And what happened was people ate vegetables. The adults ate vegetables and felt a little relaxed. And of course, a lot of cold drinks, waters, seltzers, so you don't feel dehydrated throughout the Haggadah, especially if you drink wine. And the kids, we would serve the kids, right? I mean, I was a kid at the time, so I was served also rice, meatballs, whatever from the main dishes, so they're not hungry. And I think that's a very good solution. Even if you as an adult, you could hold yourself and you want to wait until the matzah, let the kids eat. I think sometimes parents and adults don't appreciate how cranky people could get when they're hungry, and especially children. They're not even aware of that. So I think it's a good advice. I think it's a good way to do the Seder. 1 second. By the way, I think if you follow the emails, please keep an eye for the emails that I'm sending, because in our area, 1 second, someone is at the door. Okay. In our area, the schools have now announced that they're closing for the next 2 weeks. I think in LA, I know it's there, in Teaneck, in Bergen County. Not only they closed the schools, they announced that there are no more minyanim, and that even the rabbis are not allowed to have a minyan at home. They have to issue a special warning to the rabbis, because the rabbis, how can I pray without a minyan? So how is it in Chicago? School closures? No, not yet.
School closures. Your psak on virtual minyan has traction in Chicago.
So that's, by the way, that's in itself is crazy, because when I published it, even conservative rabbis were upset with me, and now it's people are asking, can you send us the psak?
Rabbi, is this all over Maryland that they're closing?
Yeah, as far as I know, the public schools are closing, and yeah.
So, Rabbi, let's take the opportunity, since we did the virtual minyan. Send me the article. We'll post it on Torah Ve'achava, share it on Facebook, and eat a minyan. Let's do it.
How about Florida, Michael? Same thing?
Some Jewish schools closed. Mine is like waiting until someone gets sick.
I'm surprised, because after APAC, we sent representatives everywhere. We brought them all to DC, and then send them out.
But they haven't really been testing people in Florida, sadly. Very little.
Yeah, we're a little bit lax here in Florida, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been lax. It hasn't been that strong here.
Yeah, I don't know. I emailed my shul, my people. I said, I'm not going to shul this Shabbat. I'm going to be at home. I'm not waiting for them to close. I don't understand that. Anyway.
There is one synagogue that they took off all the tests.
You know what I'm afraid of? I'm concerned that the Zoom and Facebook and all these will collapse.
They can shout.
Hopefully that won't have. At least we have that. But I think the most people would be devastated if Netflix would go down. That would be a huge disappointment. But no, what I meant to say is, yeah, Michael, I'll send you the article so you could put the one on virtual reality, virtual minyan. But I think that if more people stay home, we could run a sort of bet midrash next week. I think.
Yeah, let's try it. It's going to be amazing.
Yossi, if you have time, maybe you'll join me. We could make you alternate host, and you'll do some of the classes.
Gladly. Well, we could make a virtual Kiddush club.
Oh yeah, virtual Kiddush club. Yeah. I definitely have a virtual minyan. Tell your friends. Tomorrow at 7:30. My time, 7:30 Eastern time. So if you know anyone on that time zone, please let them to join. And tomorrow afternoon at 6 to 6:30, I'll do Kabbalat Shabbat for parents and children. So in the next 2 weeks, we'll do more classes, and it's all. I want it to be all free. So anyone, if anyone else is interested in teaching, we can make alternate hosts. Please let me know so we could take slots, and that would be I can make people here all use my account as alternate host, and I think it would be nice. We all share that. At least those who are stuck at home. Okay.
If there's a group for me to teach, I'm in.
Okay. Who was that? Israel. Yeah.
Israel.
Okay. Very good. So